I'm going to be reviewing the new Guyker titanium roller bridge. We'll get to the unboxing, the features, and the specs, and I'll also compare it to the bridge that's currently on this guitar, which is the TonePros roller bridge. Speaking of this guitar, it has quite a unique backstory. It started out as an Epiphone 335 figure top in a Raspberry T burst. I stripped all the polyurethane off of it and finished it in this olive drab nitro green finish. I was going for the overall motif of the Gibson Chris Cornell signature model. If you're interested in the conversion process, I've made a playlist of videos of all the things I've done to the guitar up to this point, and I'm continuing to add to that playlist, so be sure to check that out by clicking on the link in the upper part of the screen. Alright, let's get into this Guyker titanium roller bridge review. Okay, let's open this up and take a look. We have the nice bubble wrap with the Guyker logo on the front. Alright, so what we have here is the GM015-TI bridge from Guyker. The TI stands for titanium, and as far as I know, the entire bridge, the body, the saddles, and the studs are made out of titanium. The centerline to centerline dimensions here is 74 millimeters, which is typical of both Gibson and Epiphone guitars. Similarly, the radius of the saddles is 12 inches, which is also typical of both Gibson and Epiphone guitars. Now, the tops of the bridge post or studs is 4 millimeters, which is typical of Gibson guitars, not to be confused with the 6 millimeter diameter of the tops of Epiphone and import guitar studs. And if we take this Allen key here, you can see that this has set screws that lock the bridge down onto the posts right here and here. So in other words, if I take these posts, put the bridge on it like this, then I could tighten down this screw here and it would tighten the bridge down and lock it onto the posts. The reason you want to do that is because you want the movement to be on the saddles, these little wheels here, and not on the bridge rocking back and forth, because the theory is that the bridge might not come to the same resting spot, but the saddles or the rollers would. Now, I actually have a couple of other roller bridge saddles that I want to compare this to here, and let me start with this one. So this one is actually the, and I hope I get this right, I believe it is the GM015, but no dash, so no dash TI. And I think this is basically made out of zinc alloy and with a chrome finish. And what happened is, let me move these studs over here. So what happened was Guyker actually sent me this bridge at first, and it was supposed to be the titanium one, and I got to looking at it and comparing, and I thought that it wasn't the right one. I contacted them, and they were good about it. They acknowledged the mistake, and they sent me the right one. So the main differences here, this one, like I said, is a shiny kind of chrome finish, and the titanium one is more dull, has less of a shine to it. The real telltale sign is the back here. So again, this is the titanium one, and this is the one that's the chrome one. You can see Guyker written on the bottom there, but you don't have these big kind of holes or voids in the bottom like you do on the titanium one. As far as everything else, the centerline to centerline stud spacing, that is the same. And of course the diameter here, the 4 millimeters, is the same. So it should be the same fit up and everything. If we compare the studs here, you can see hopefully that these are a more coarse spline and these are more fine. Similarly to the cups that accept the post, these are more coarse and these are more fine. And I think, like I said, these are made of titanium and these are made out of zinc alloy, which, you know, typically is a cheaper material. This is a cheaper bridge compared to this one. So, you know, you kind of get what you pay for. Not to say this is a bad bridge, but if you want to kind of upgrade, you might want to go for the titanium one. And I will say that Guyker also makes the Epiphone or import versions of these bridges. This one would be the GM005 bridge in that category. And then this one would be the GM005-TI in that category. Now, the other roller bridge I have to compare to this one is the TonePros roller bridge that I currently have on my guitar. This one is the TP6R model, which fits Gibson guitars. They also have a version that fits Epiphone and import guitars, and that model is TPFR. Now, this one I did relic myself. It did not come like this. It was, you know, shiny finish, but I did sort of age it to fit the motif of my guitar. And overall, I've been really satisfied with this bridge. I did have an issue at first when one of these saddles was sort of buzzing on, I think on the high E string. I had some issues with it vibrating and making a rattling sound. So I was able to swap over one of the saddles with another one and sort of fix that issue. I reached out, actually made a video about this, and I'll make a link up here in the top part of the screen, and you can watch that, of course, if you're interested. But when I made that video, I talked about how I reached out to TonePros with the issue that I had, and I didn't hear anything back from them, and I was sort of frustrated and disappointed with their customer service. However, later on, probably about 6 months later, they actually did reach out to me. I believe it was the owner of the company, and he said he saw something about my video or an Instagram post, something like that. And he said, hey, I want to apologize. I looked back at my records and I don't see any record of your email. Of course, the way you send them an email from their site is one of those generic forms where you type in your message and you hit send. So it doesn't actually come from your email address. In other words, I don't have a sent message from me to them proving that I sent a message, but I did fill out the form. Whatever happened. I'm not blaming them. But I do want to say that they did reach out. They didn't ignore my email or anything like that. So it took some time to get back to me, but they did get back to me. And I believe they offered to replace the bridge for free. And a little bit more about this bridge. The saddles of this bridge are made out of stainless steel, and the body is made out of Zamic. Zamic, I believe, is a zinc alloy or an alloy steel that has aluminum in it. I believe that was typical of like the ABR bridges that came on the 50s and 60s Les Pauls. So it's kind of sought after and regarded as a good material for Gibson style bridges. Of course, this video is not about the TonePros bridge, it is about the Guyker bridge. But I did want to point out what is currently on my guitar and what we're comparing this bridge to. The main difference being the materials that the bridges are made out of. Another important note to make is that I will not be using these studs. The reason being is that my guitar is actually an Epiphone guitar, and in order to use these Gibson style Nashville bridges, I have to use a conversion post or bushing. I made a video about those conversion posts, and I'll link it up here in the corner. I'll also put a link in the description of where you can buy the post. But essentially the bottom of the post is an M8 thread, which is an Epiphone or import measurement, and the top of the post is a 4mm diameter, which of course fits the Nashville Gibson bridges. A couple of other things really quickly. I'm going to, of course, set the intonation for this bridge. I'm going to rough it in to match this one, and then when I get it on the guitar, I will set it up correctly. And I forgot to mention that this chrome bridge also comes in black and gold. Now let's get to installing this bridge on the guitar. Regarding installation, I should be able to take this TonePros bridge off and simply replace it with the Guyker titanium bridge. However, and I've already tried this off camera, it doesn't seem to go on. And the reason is that if I measure these studs with my calipers here, they measure about, I don't know if you can see that, but I will measure both to verify. They measure about 4mm or 4.1 millimeters. And the Guyker studs measure about 3.9mm. So I've got 1mm to 2mm, or maybe a half to 1mm on either side of the bridge inner diameter to be able to get this on these studs. Now again, I cannot use the Guyker studs because I have these metric conversion posts, and I also can't use these studs in my Les Paul, my Gibson Les Paul, because I have Faber conversion posts in that guitar. So I'm kind of stuck with trying to modify this bridge to be able to get it to fit on these studs. And what I believe I'm going to do is take a small round file and just kind of work the insides of these holes to see if I can enlarge those a little bit and get them to seat down onto these posts. So let me try that and I will report back. Okay, so with about 30 minutes straight of filing with these round files and a 5/32 drill bit with my hand drill, I was able to fit the Guyker titanium bridge onto these posts. And let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit to show you a better shot. So yeah, there you go. It fits onto the metric conversion post with a little bit of effort. And I have these set screws out, of course, so that they're not in the way, but I will tighten those down. Of course, set the intonation, get everything set up, and we'll get ready for some sound samples and comparisons. So what do I think about this new Guyker roller bridge? Well, I think it's a great value for the money. The material and the workmanship seem to be spot on. I didn't have any issues with the playability or the tuning at all. It seemed to function really well. And I want to make very clear that the fit-up issues I was experiencing are no fault of Guyker's. With the particular guitar I was using, I was pretty much stuck with the conversion post, and I had to make the Guyker bridge fit those posts. But the Guyker posts themselves fit very well to the Guyker bridge. The tolerances are tight and it's well machined, and if you use those together, you should have no issues. So what about the sound of the Guyker bridge, and how did it compare to the TonePros bridge? Well, listening back, to me the TonePros bridge seemed a bit brighter. I'm not great at picking out frequencies, but overall it just had more presence. The Guyker bridge I thought had more maybe of the low mids and was a little bit more boomy. So if you had, say, a Telecaster guitar that was kind of bright, you might want to use the Guyker bridge to sort of tame that down a little bit and enhance the mids. But if you had maybe a darker sounding Les Paul, you might choose the TonePros bridge. So that about wraps it up for this video. There will be an affiliate link down below if you're interested in purchasing the bridge. That will help me out a little bit. And I want to say thank you to Guyker for sending me the bridge to try out. They did send it to me for free, but they're not paying me anything. Just wanted to disclose that. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.